Hello, and welcome to Direct Approach with Wayne Moorehead, an exclusive podcast by Direct Selling News, where host Wayne Moorehead interviews the channel's leading corporate executives to provide timely insights and relevant takeaways to help grow and evolve your businesses. In today's episode, Wayne is joined by Bala, President and Chief Executive Officer of Mannatech. In the early 1990s, Mannatech introduced a new approach to health, wellness, and personal care. In 2021, it ranked 54th on the DSN Global 100 list with $153 million in revenue. But of course, the company's story can't be told in revenue alone. Over the past few years, Mannatech has implemented a disciplined focus on business basics, becoming a brand new success story nearly after 30 years. And much of that new focus has been driven by Al. Al joined Mannatech in October of 2007, and since then has served in a variety of executive and C-level sales and marketing roles. In 2015, he was named CEO of Mannatech, and today he continues guiding the organization in its global expansion. During the fall 2021 DSU virtual event, Al shared an overview of how they took the challenges facing Mannatech and used them as an opportunity for growth. This inspirational talk became one of the top-rated and requested presentations. Today on Direct Approach, Al and Wayne have a candid conversation about some of the challenges they faced after he joined the company, the importance of creating momentum in the wake of those challenges, and he explains why momentum must come from within the company. He also explains how returning to customer obsession can transform a business from the inside out, and looks at why every leader needs to pay attention to the KPI of trust. Speaking of DSU and events, we are excited to announce a Direct Selling University first ever live broadcast Tech Summit event on Tuesday, February 22nd from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Direct selling tech executives wear many hats, and with more solutions available than ever before, it's critical to know what works and what mistakes to avoid. The rapid evolution of technological advancements, while incredibly exciting, also presents real challenges for leaders responsible for making critical business decisions. The Tech Summit will help tech executives keep a pulse on emerging tech, market trends, and how to confidently navigate the increasingly blurred lines between tech solutions and marketing innovation. And as with all DSU events, access is free to all active corporate direct selling executives, thanks in part to our presenting sponsor, Exigo. We have assembled industry leaders and subject matter experts to share their experiences and learnings on everything from data security and privacy to digital marketing tools that will wow your CMO. We invite you to visit directsellingnews.com/tech summit to learn more about the event, the presenters, and to register for free. Join your executive peers for this free live broadcast event, Tuesday, February 22nd, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And now, please help me welcome your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today's guest, Al Bala, President and Chief Executive Officer of Mannatech.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorehead, and I'm very excited to be joined today by Mannatech's President and CEO, Al Bala. Al, thank you so much for being here.
Wayne, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm just a pleasure to be here and to be able to hopefully add some value for the folks that are listening to us today.
Well, for sure you will. If it's anything like your DSU presentation, you're going to add a lot of value. And to that point, the response from that presentation a couple months ago has been really incredible. Everyone wanted to hear more about Mannatech and what you were doing there. So today we're going to dig in a little bit deeper into some of the dynamics surrounding your efforts to regain momentum there at Mannatech, such a great company with a great history. And so to that point, I'm excited for you to drop some knowledge on us today, like you did a couple months ago at DSU.
All right. Well, I'm ready. I'm excited, Wayne.
Okay. So let's start off by having you tell us a little bit about the history of Mannatech and what led you to joining the company.
All right. Well, I think I'll set up the context that I've been in the industry 41 years. So literally it was 1980. I went to my first meeting, recently arrived in the US and got a chance to go to a network marketing presentation on a Tuesday night. So I've been in that environment for a long time, been in the model, been in the industry for a long time. And frankly, I always thought that, where I was, my first company was going to be my last company. So for me, Mannatech came out of a different passion than what I thought I was in earlier. I started network marketing because, as most people said, for three reasons: money, money, money. We saw the lifestyle, we understood residual income. For me, international expansion and having a global business with all the things that attracted me to the industry. Now, as I got older, I started realizing more and more that, health is your first wealth. So my introduction to Mannatech was really through the products, being able to see the effects of the products on certain people around me, really got me very inquisitive, very curious about what was it all about. Heard things that I hadn't heard before. And as a network marketer, that's always something that, if there's a story people have not heard before, that's a good story for network marketing, because that's really where the model does best. And when you find something that can really affect somebody's life and health in such a way, I thought this might be interesting. So I actually started out as just a consumer and kind of a bystander to somebody else's experience with the product and actually even the business opportunity. Until I got a phone call from the founder then, who just had been told by a few people that if Mannatech was ever going to go international, that they should, connect with me and talk to me, because that's where I had lived for quite a few years. Actually, about from 1991 to 2007, when this happened, I had been involved in opening up like over 60 markets around the world, just brand new markets. So I had built quite of an experience there, but that's what they were looking for. But what really made me even think about it was more because I think there was a value that Mannatech was bringing to the marketplace that I felt I could be excited about being a part of. So that's how I came to Dallas, had a meeting. It took maybe it took a year before I could really make that decision. But when I did, I came in, and the idea was to take the Mannatech story to the rest of the world. And that's something I had done before. So I felt like I could really help him with that. And I felt like it was a story that was worth telling. And it was a value that was worth bringing to the marketplace. And I wanted to be a part of that.
I love that it was kind of a values-based decision for you to really come inside, because that is quite a significant shift to be out in the field, to be building, successful organizations and help building companies for decades, and then shift internally. Talk to me a little bit about maybe some of the advantages of having that, field leader experience and field leader perspective. What were those advantages coming into the CEO role?
Well, actually, one of the points I should make is when I was in the field, I always had this thought that, wouldn't it be nice to be in a place where you could really influence the company in a way that would marry the field culture with the corporate culture? I know you know what I mean, and most people that are listening know what I mean, because they are two different cultures, and when they are close enough, things really go well. When you get this big gap between that corporate culture and the field culture, then there's a lot of, then it creates a lot of dissonance, and that dissonance ends up being, affecting productivity on the side of the field. So for me, the advantage of having been in the field and understanding that field culture, and literally having an opportunity to be on the inside to affect the culture in the inside of a company to match that culture of the field, for me, that was an exciting challenge. And, and I know everybody understands it's a challenge, because the needs of the organization, the ownership, and the needs of the field sometimes can collide. So it's really, how do you make it kind of fit as closely as it can, where it's truly a win-win situation between the field and also the company and the owners and the shareholders and all those things. So for me, that was a great advantage, is knowing that. Obviously, when you get on the inside, you start understanding as well the needs of the organization, and be able to communicate that back to the field. But if you already can speak the field language, then you can position it in ways that they understand why it's important. that the company needs to be successful. The company needs to be profitable. The company needs to be good to their shareholders in order to be good to their associate. And it's, and it's so, and vice versa, right? It has to be good for the field to be good for the shareholders. So how do you marry those two things together? Having been in the field helped me because I knew the language. I knew how to go speak back to them. And also, obviously, on the inside, I could influence the inside culture to also be much more cognizant of the needs of the field and the things that are really important and crucial for them.
Yeah, you get to be a bridge between two worlds in a really unique way, and your ability to speak both languages, the field side and the corporate side, has really been a huge advantage to Mannatech, especially in the last couple of years. So moving into that, I want to talk about momentum. Again, this is one of the ideas and principles that you talked about at DSU here a couple months ago. We all know the importance of momentum in direct selling. It's something that we speak about a lot. It's something that our field talks about. When it's on your side, it can seem like everything's going right. When you're not in momentum, when you don't have it, it can almost feel at times like there's nothing that you can do right to really impact and change that momentum. Can you talk a little bit about why regaining momentum is such a challenge in direct selling, especially in a larger, more established company like Mannatech that's been in business for more than 25 years now?
Well, yeah, I think it's John Maxwell who said momentum solves 80% of all problems, right? So big mo, we call it. We want to have it. When you have it, it's like you can't do nothing wrong. Everything you touch turns to gold, which tends to make us all a little bit more arrogant about what we really know or don't know. But also on the other side is when you don't have it, it is really it's painful because it's hard.
So Mannatech had been in business for more than 25 years, had experienced incredible growth, incredible momentum, especially in those early years. What do you see are some of the contributing factors to that shift in momentum?
Well, for us, that shift in momentum was an actual situation that happened where, there was a lot of things going on, but part of it was short sellers. When you are a growing business, you're going to attract them. Our stock had done quite well at that time, and the short sellers came in. And frankly, what the short sellers do is they create the situation that's going to actually be advantageous to their bets, which is that the company is going to go down. So that created a situation that eventually became a Attorney General of Texas action, which then for the next 7 years we had to deal with, and we had to be very we have to be very transparent with our associates, our customers every year, that they could return the products, all those things, without having ever said the products don't work or the company has done something wrong. But having to go through all that definitely affected the psyche of the field, to understand, but it also affected the psyche of the company. Because at that point, then we became very cautious, very conservative, which means that we really were very careful about how the story was told. We lost the story. And then for a company that had built their whole story on the basis of how amazing these products were, and I totally agree that was probably not the best way to promote the company, but it happened. When we couldn't tell that story anymore, then all of a sudden it's like, then what do we tell? What's the story we tell? And when the company had to take over the story from the field, then the field said, okay, you tell us what to say.
Sure.
Well, you are in trouble when the company has to figure out what the distributors are going to say, because we're not in the trenches. We're not the ones having those conversations. So that became really a vicious cycle for many years that kept us really in a declining trend for quite a few years, and that declining trend only exacerbated that psyche that maybe we can't grow anymore. So what makes it hard to get momentum again is not the physical stuff. It's not the new product or new brand or this or that. It's really your mental state as an organization and your ability to actually believe that you can grow again, that you can have momentum again.
Wow, that's really powerful. I agree with you. I hadn't thought of it this way, but momentum really is a mindset. It's not just these external factors, these tailwinds that are helping your company, but it's also how you think and act as an entire organization, both internally and externally. I think that's really important. And that shifts into my next question a little bit. Obviously, over those years with some declining momentum, you had made some changes, some shifts, attempts to evolve. But what made this effort over the last couple of years different from any other time?
Well, I think time heal things. So sometimes time is our friend. People forget certain things, and it gives you new opportunities to think differently. I believe that if I contributed anything to this process, it would have been to not lose my enthusiasm for what the company could be and could do. I have such a strong passion for the industry, for the model, and just because of my own personal story and what it did for me, I believe it can do this for anybody else. And so I never lost my enthusiasm. So we went from defeat to defeat without losing our enthusiasm. I think that was the start of that. The second thing I think that, and probably most critical for us, was to put ourselves in a vulnerable position of realizing that despite all the things we had tried, and we tried so many things, and after a while, I think even the field starts feeling like, okay, what's the next new idea, right? Next new idea. So idea of the week, idea of the month. But when you are in that situation, you got to keep trying things, because you just can't watch your business just continue to decline. Sometimes the things you do can help it a little bit. Sometimes actually it makes the situation worse. But anyways, we tried a lot of things. But I think 2 years ago, my epiphany was really realizing that momentum is an inside job. I started realizing that it was that psyche, it was that almost spiritual element of momentum that was lacking. But again, to create momentum, you got to create action, and then you got to choose what action that is, right? So for me, it was putting ourselves in a vulnerable position of realizing we've tried a lot of things. Maybe we can't figure this out on our own, and go outside and really seek people that had the right framework to come in and help us, and literally to go back to the basics, right? To go back to the basics, peel it all back, and then start building again from the fundamentals of the industry. And that's when I reached out to Mr. Paul Adam, that you know very well.
Paul's amazing.
And what we did is I decided in 2020, we had quite an epiphany with John Fleming in 2019, the end of 2019, understanding where the model was going with the gig economy. Paul was part of that conversation. Then eventually, when we started 2020, it was really about if we go back to basics, if we were going to pick one thing that we were going to get good at, what would it be? And I can't say that this was a new thought, an original thought. I went back to, and you look around and go, well, Amazon has done really well. What was that thing? If you go back to 1999, Jeff Bezos was, kind of coined that phrase, customer obsession. Right? Customer obsession. What if we were to go back to that, to that kind of fundamental, which is, what if we could be obsessed about our customer, which by saying obsessed, customer obsession, we're also saying, in our case, associate obsession, the people that we serve. How do we get obsessed about serving them as best as we can serve them? So so I was going to kind of create a culture, an inside culture of customer obsession. Paul was going to help us out. We built an internal team, cross-functional team, and started going after every single touch point that we had with the customer, creating these listening posts every way we had interaction with them to really know how are we doing and how can we do it better. I think, Wayne, what that did, besides what we could improve physically and the things we could do better, I think it started shifting the psyche of the people inside the building to really get focused on those people who are our customers, those people who are associate, and really making sure that we were creating the best experience that we could for them. And from that, then spun other initiatives. We'll talk a little bit more later, but I think that was where it started. It started realizing that if things were going to change, we had to change inside, and then we would project that to the outside, versus everybody else out there is not doing what they're supposed to do, and then we're going to hope and pray they do what's the right thing. So let's change, but you change first. We're not going to change. So we did it the opposite way. We started changing in the inside.
I think that is probably maybe the most important decision you made in the entire process, because everything else came as a result of that decision. As you mentioned earlier, you didn't focus on a lot of the external elements like product or brand, or, let's do a new website or launch some of these new markets to regain traction. But you went internal instead of external. I think that right there is why it was effective, and why everything else seemed to start working, to really start clicking for Mannatech. So what are some of the things that you did? I mean, you talked about pulling people together internally. You talked about some of the vision casting that you had to do, and really help share your enthusiasm with everybody. What are some of the things that you did besides those to really prepare the internal team to start generating that momentum, to really be the catalyst, not looking outside, but really looking internally for that momentum?
Well, I think once we could sell the idea to our folks inside, and actually it was received with a lot of excitement, and we had the right people in the right spots to really, spearhead this project. It became cross-functional, so everybody in the company kind of touched, were part of this process. They met on a weekly basis, still meet on a weekly basis, guided by Paul. So that started this internal culture of customer obsession. Then that led to, as we were becoming more customer obsessed, it also forced us to have to think about what is really our vision and our mission. So then we pulled all the executive together, and we really worked on our vision mission in a way I don't think we've ever done before. I think in the past, what we did is we said, okay, well, we're going to go to the people and they're going to tell us what our brand is, which is a good exercise. But it wasn't, we were not taking responsibility for that. We were saying, well, what do they think? And then let's pull that in. And we created even a whole branding exercise around that, which worked to some degree. But our own identity as an organization, how everybody in this building felt about who they are and what are they part of, was not clear. So we went into really clarifying our vision, our mission, which really actually helped us shift from this product, technology, science company into it's about empowering these people to live their very best lives. What do we really do? We empower people to live their best lives. So that started a whole other shift for us internally, away from just product science, which we've been heavy for, and we're very fortunate to have all of that. But that was not the message that the people out there needed to hear, because everybody's thinking about what's in it for me. So we need to focus on what's in it for them, and then that spawned into another project, which, Wayne, we were so lucky to have you be part of, and Miss Kristen Knight as well, where we decided now let's really re-audit our entire marketing structure, our messaging, products, all those things, which was about a 6-month project that you guys undertook. And the insights from that were invaluable to help us really now then go to that last piece, which is really how do we tell the story again? How do we get ownership of that story that we really feel is the story that aligns and congruent with our vision, mission, that we can go out there and tell and teach our people to go tell. So this is kind of closing a whole cycle that started in 2007 when we had a story, we lost the story, went through the desert, and now we're coming back out now hopefully with a story we can go tell people. And I think that process energized our people, and somehow that projection of the feelings inside really caught the attention of our people outside, our field, our customers. And I think that is what eventually has led to where we are in 2021 with some of the results we've seen, which is literally just the beginning, what we feel is going to be our next growth spurt as a company. Absolutely.
I love that you keep talking and referencing the idea of a story. When we were discussing one of the big challenges or what were some of the things that impacted the momentum negatively, you mentioned that we kind of lost our story. And as you talked about this regaining of momentum, you talked about the building of the story and using mission, vision, values. I do think so often those are considered maybe soft and not a huge part of strategy. But to your point, I think those are not only the foundation of a culture and a brand positioning, but also the story. You could have the best products in the world, and if you can't explain it, if you can't position yourself in the mind and the hearts of the members and the customers, those products are going to sit on shelves in a warehouse. They're never going to get out there and have the impact that they could. So I love that you've realized and really are advocating the importance of telling the story of who you are. I also think it's a great anchor. Once you have that story, you know who you are. You also know where you're going, and everybody can kind of align to that and really start kind of marching to the same drum, if you will. So I think that's really powerful.
Well, I think the in talking about the story, we were big on talking about ourselves. Mm-hmm. 30 years experience, an amazing discovery and 154 patents and the clinicals and the science. And we lost sight of really what you reminded us of, which is that hero's journey, right, of the customer. What do they really want? What are they really looking for? How do we want to make them feel? So when we started shifting from facts and figures into just the feeling and the emotion, what really drives people to go out and actually buy our product because of what they expect to get and hopefully the feelings that it will create for them, I think that, and we're still in that journey, of finishing that up. But just even for us to go through that journey and having that epiphany of what's really critical here for that customer, that has been a game changer for us. And, we're forever grateful for you guys helping us kind of navigate through all that and get to that understanding, because we were all full of ourselves, and we had a lot of reasons to be proud of the things that we've done and how we've done it. But that didn't resonate with the customer, especially the new customer we want to attract, not the same people we've been talking to for 25 years, and they're a loyal group of people. They love the story. That story they love, but that's not the story that's going to attract the other 7.3 billion people that are not involved with us.
That is such an important distinction of understanding who the real audience is, who the products are for, who the end result is really for, and understanding the customer. And that's something that you did really well in looking then externally. Once you looked internally at your own employees there at HQ, looking at the consumer and trying to understand their needs, wants, and desires, and understanding how your products can help achieve them. And to your point about the facts and the figures, those are so important. They're incredible differentiators. I know just from working with you in Mannatech, the incredible amount of money that you've invested in science and research and validation. And those are all really important, but those are kind of the what you do, right, but not the why you do it, really, to invoke Simon Sinek. And I know that's probably every other podcast is a Simon Sinek reference, but it is really important to understand the what you do versus why and the how. And I think you guys were amazing at that, knowing that those are key differentiators for your story, but there are more reasons to believe. So once you've established who you are through that brand story, those help reinforce the story and help the belief level to the end user. I think that's a really, really important distinction.
Absolutely. I think that's what makes me actually be very excited, optimistic about the future, because I think we're just scratching the surface of what this can really do for us. And again, this is not new. Every other company that's gone through this process has seen success, because at the end of the day, it's that exchange of value. It's the emotions we create with these customers that makes them want to buy the first time and then keep buying from us. And frankly, just delivering real, tangible value to them, which is that's what we endeavor to do, and we'll continue to really work to to fulfill that expectation.
Absolutely. So from this process you went through of looking internally and externally, and again, you spent a lot of time looking at the market and the categories at your competition. You referenced two of these kind of main ideas that ended up becoming these overarching ideas, this idea of back to basics and customer obsession. Can you talk a little bit about, let's start with back to basics. So you talked about trying to affect change from a cultural standpoint, in simplifying the business, and also from an internal leadership standpoint. But talk a little bit more about what back to basics means for you and how you were able to communicate that internally and how everybody got on board with that idea.
Well, again, I mean, this is another story about really us reaching out and finding the right people to come in and actually help us navigate through this. Because usually most of us are really too close to what's going on on a day-to-day basis. And so we really sold out to the concept of principle-centered leadership, and brought Mr. Steve Elder to come in and help really mentor us through that process and help us navigate through it, which is really where it's also creating a culture inside the company that mirrors quite a bit our vision, which is we want to empower our teams to be able to be bigger contributors to what we're trying to create. So this was not going to be just a few people at the top making some decisions, but it was going to open up, it was going to create an environment where everybody could really step in and bring their value. So we could really optimize the overall value of the organization versus the one of the few people at the top who might be monopolizing the thought process. So that for us was really critical. It helped us to be a lot more open to one another, to really dig into the real issues of the organization. And also it helped us to, when we talk about going back to basic, it helped us to understand that really our business is a duplication business. It's a massive duplication business. So are we really doing the right things to enable that duplication to happen? Whether it's in our system, our technology, the kinds of products we're coming up with, the kinds of packs we create, are these things really feeding into this massive duplication process? And massive duplication is not just a recruiting campaign or blitz. It really is about that internal machine of how are we dealing with each new person that come in, whether it's a customer or an associate, to really help them to go to that next step. If it's a customer, it's become a customer, then become a raving fan, and then maybe somebody who promotes the product. That's duplication, right?
Right.
Or if you're an associate, it's coming in and again having your product experience and being able to go out and share the story, and then having somebody who says, "I like to do that," and then, but how do they do that? So for me, it seems almost too simple. I mean, we know we've always been in the business of selling products and recruiting people and creating teams, but we never put it into that. We never really got to that focus of just doing those things, having that clarity, and then eventually being able to focus on it, and then obviously then after that perform. So that was the back to basics for us.
Yeah,
both from a leadership style, but also from understanding what we're our model is all about.
Yeah, focusing on those few key objectives, those few key levers that you can pull to really have an impact, and really focus all the resources and time and attention on those few things. I thought that was really powerful that you were able to do that. There's no shortage of great ideas in any company. And I think a lot of the discipline and strategy comes from really saying no to most of those and understanding where you have the biggest leverage, where you can have the biggest impact, which led you into customer obsession. And obviously the rise of the customer is a big topic of discussion here in direct selling, and the members and distributors you have at Mannatech are vitally important as the customers. And you kind of defined this customer obsession as it relates to both of those audiences that you serve, both customer and member. And people talk about we're customer centric, we're customer focused, but you guys took it to a level of obsession where you really did look, not just from a terminology standpoint, but from an activity standpoint, looked at every single interaction that happens with each of those groups and make sure that they were managed and optimized. What was that like? How long did that take to go through to really map out these journeys and understand where these pivotal points were in these journeys?
Well, it's been really an 18-month process, which hasn't stopped. I mean, it's going to continue. I mean, we did things, obviously, understanding what was going on in the obvious, right? Customer service, all right? Are we actually getting feedback from the people on every call that's being made? Now, that seems like table stake. It wasn't for us. So we had to go in there and actually, tighten up that process so we could actually get feedback at that interaction. Then we took, we knew we had an issue with deliveries and all those things. So we actually put a QR code on the boxes, just saying, look, put your phone in here. Everybody understands QR codes now, and take a quick survey. We'll give you some extra loyalty points. Tell us, how was your box? Did that fulfill your expectation? Wayne, just going through that process, and we reduced our transit time from 5 days to 3 days to 2 days. In some cases, even 1 day, because as an organization, and then we were able to pass this feeling on to our 3PL. We wanted that what you inspect, you got to inspect what you expect. So by measuring those things, we were able to now just get the organization to automatically focus on getting those things better. We created the first box, just saying, look, that first box for the new customer. Can we make that experience something that's memorable for them? How can we make it better? And we have all kinds of surveys going on. And then we also increased our level of communication. And that, I would say, because of the COVID situation and the disconnect that we were feeling, man, we just doubled down on communication, right? So we got about over 20 emails that are event-triggered emails that are automated through the process, so that every kind of event triggers an email or a connection, or sending them a video or something that keeps them very much tied to us. We did even what we put in the shipping documents to reinforce that connection with us, so they could come back to us if they had any issues. As soon as they put an order in, they were getting an email that would then give us an opportunity to see how they felt about things. I mean, there's just so many things, Wayne.
Yeah, it was so comprehensive.
A lot of small things. And by the way, that also connected to a principle we started inside the company, which was that, let's not look for home runs.
Interesting.
Base hits. Let's get a lot of small things done right, and eventually you win the game. Now, again, not an original thought. I think everybody's seen the movie, right? But it was just really, how do you really focus on those small things, do enough small things right, and eventually you don't need a home run. You're going to win the game just because you are paying attention to all those small things, and all those small things eventually make a difference. And at least that's what we're saying right now.
Yeah, each one of those wins helps to create momentum internally, and I think externally. It can be really daunting and overwhelming to focus too much on the final end state or end result. It's important to have that vision and that goal, but it could seem too overwhelming on what to do to get there. So generating those early wins and frequent wins goes a long way to helping the entire organization and the field really believe that this is achievable. If you only focus on the end goal, you would miss so much of the wonderful things that happen internally. And to that point, I mean, after you worked on the leadership and the culture and focusing the business and creating that belief internally and digging in to each and every touch point, which I think is so important, because every touch point is an opportunity to build the brand or hurt the brand. And if it's on brand, it's going to be accretive. If it's not, too many of those and you lose trust. But you dug in on some really hard elements. You tackled product strategy and developed a 18 to 24 month product roadmap beyond how the current portfolio was organized. You dug into brand strategy. You dug into digital strategy. These were all huge elements and objectives to tackle. How did you help create those kind of early wins here as well? Did it end up being more kind of sequential? I mean, it's important to have that belief there and not just be overwhelmed by all the things that you're evolving, but you dug really deep and made some really significant change there.
Yeah, thinking about even in technology, I know that a couple of years ago, we started the whole digital revolution inside the company. That's been kind of a slower process than I expected, but still, we totally understand that that's where the future is. I think Wayne, and COVID kind of pushed us there because since we didn't have everybody in the office, we communicated a lot. I mean, I literally did weekly, town halls,
Yeah.
huddles, director huddles, town halls with everybody. And those gave us opportunities to talk to them about these things, reinforcing that whole principle of, guys, it's the small, it's the base hits. It's the base hits, and really acknowledging those base hits and talking about them in terms of the base hits, so that we were confirming to them on a weekly basis that was what we were about, and that's how we were going to win the game. And now it's easier, I have to say, when you actually are getting some momentum, when you're getting some of the wins. So I don't know, were we lucky? I guess a little bit, because you can do all those things, and sometimes there's a lag between all that activity and actually some tangible results. So we were lucky enough that as we were doing these things, now some people might say, if you work hard enough, you get lucky. I don't know. I can't say that for sure. Sometimes, the universe will throw you a bone. And for us, it was just the fact that we had these wins, like, being able to reduce our shipping time from 5 days to 2 days. I mean, it could have been a lot of things, but it happened. And it happened as we were trying to actually improve them. They improved. So was that a self-fulfilled prophecy? Was that a break? I don't know. I like to think that there's some luck involved there, but at the same time, it was an intention that we had put out there. But we reinforced it literally, Wayne, every week. And we had people talk about some of their wins. We had our customer obsession team report on a monthly basis the things that were happening and so on. So we all these congruent action towards this bigger goal that we had seemed to have all fostered this internal feeling that eventually, I think, cascaded out of the organization into the field.
Sure. Yeah. And I do think that was important that you rolled it out internally first to employees, got them to buy off and understand the vision prior to rolling it out to the field. I think that's a step that often gets missed, but it's something that you and your team spent a lot of time on. Do you think that was pretty integral in the success of the entire kind of, momentum gaining go forward strategy?
Well, I would say it probably had a lot to do with being able to get tangible results in the field. Mm-hmm. We were really good in the past at going to the field and telling them about what we're going to do.
Yeah.
What's coming.
Been there.
Right.
Yep.
What's coming. And here it was like we quietly got it done and then said, hey, this is what's happened already.
Yeah.
So because building that trust back with the field takes some time. And we had done a lot of things had happened to erode that trust. And I think eventually, as the future unfolds and we see some of the fruits of some of these work that we've done in an even more tangible way, I think it's going to come back to the fact that we got it done and then we told them about it versus we told them in advance. And then a lot of times what we did is we didn't come true for reasons in our control or out of our control, but we kept reinforcing this thing of, all right, well, that's Mannatech. We love Mannatech, but they don't always do the things they say they're going to do. Mm-hmm. And that has a very insidious effect on the overall productivity of your field over time. I saw an article in the world of direct selling about the KPI of trust, and I think that it's right on. We all as organizations need to really pay attention to that KPI of trust, how we're doing there, and because it's hard to get, it's easy to lose, and part of it is doing the things you say you're going to do, and hopefully do it, and then say you've done it, and then that starts rebuilding that trust again.
I think that KPI of trust is a really important principle. And I think the way that you approached it, even the sequencing of focusing internally first, then bringing the field, and I think that is one of the reasons why this kind of regaining of momentum was really successful for you, is you took the time to build the trust, to create those wins, to deliver on, not just the initiative promises, but the brand promises of who Mannatech is as a brand and as a company. So looking back, 1-2 years later, all of the KPIs that you would normally want to measure success by are up. Your enrollment, your sales, your productivity, even the stock price. I think Wall Street has really recognized the amazing efforts and has recognized and rewarded this momentum, which we haven't really talked much about. But that's another important factor in all of this. Is not only did you do it as a company that has 2 or 3 decades of history, that's in lots of markets, really large scale, but you also did it as a public company. So, sometimes Wall Street wants those results every quarter, and you might make decisions based on a little bit more short term. But I'm glad that you and the other leadership there really made the long-term investment in doing this the right way, because I think that it's really, really paying off. But so as you look back, a year and 2 later, how has this newfound excitement, this newfound trust, this newfound momentum really changed the organization?
Well, I think it's given us that winning feeling again, and that when you don't have it, you don't even know you don't have it until you have it, and then it's like it feels very different.
Yeah.
We had forgotten what it felt like to win. And we all worked very hard. We all did everything that we had to do, but we didn't. We couldn't feel. We couldn't get that winning feeling. So getting that, it's almost like that winning feeling breeds winning. You feel like you are in a championship team, and obviously the Wall Street rewarding us so far for that. I can change anytime.
Yeah, I'm knocking on wood.
Right? So we're going to knock on wood. But the fact that they're rewarding these fundamentals that are right, the financial fundamentals, which are only a reflection of the other fundamentals, right? So it's nice when it works, right? You do all the right things, then it shows up in your top line, it shows up in your bottom line. You're serving your customers, you're serving your associate, you're serving your other stakeholders, and stockholders. Well, that then gives you a different kind of, I don't know, I would call it bravado. It just gives you a different kind of posture on how to look at the things, and now there's an expectation to win, and you don't get what you want, you get what you expect. So to get an organization to start expecting to win probably is the biggest thing that's happened for us positively, that I feel is also a precursor to maybe a brighter future, right? But I think that's what it's done for us internally, is getting that winning feeling again. And now it's like everything seems to be supporting that, which is nice. This is now the reverse of the momentum is the positive momentum. The only thing is, we must be very wary of letting that feeling get in the way of staying, continue to concentrate on those fundamentals, those things that got us here so far. Now we feel like we almost have to double down.
Yeah.
Now we got to double down on these things to really accelerate this momentum, so it really becomes real and tangible. Right now, it just feels like it's nice noise. It's great, but
it's a little abstract.
Right?
But
it's a little So now we need to turn that into some really, really solid performance over the next few years, which is something we're definitely committed to. But we, at least from a psyche point of view, from that, call it from that spiritual, mental side, momentum, I feel like we're better prepared to win in the future.
Absolutely. And I think it was interesting that you mentioned the importance of kind of protecting that. It would almost be somewhat easy to maybe fall back into complexity and adding more and more initiatives to try to continue to drive the momentum, but really protecting that focus and simplicity and those things that we're working and have contributed. It's important to really continue to focus on those. I know how challenging it would be. And it's also, to your point, amazing the confidence that comes with those wins. The overall cultural lift, the spirit that there is there internally, the confidence that there is pretty amazing that comes from those wins. So what do you think, if you could look back a little bit, and what are one or the two most important leadership lessons you learned going through this process and seeing the great success that it's generated for you?
Well, if I go back to the to where I feel some of this changes started to happen, I think I learned the value, of one person can come in and change the culture in a very positive way, or one person can change the culture in a very negative way.
Yeah.
So it really taught me the value of, protecting the culture and making sure that, the people who are in your culture, are very, aligned with that culture. So for me, that was a big lesson. Not that I did not know that before. It just that it confirmed that for me.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say that I learned from this is, as we said earlier, this idea that, change is always an inside job. I'm even more convinced of that now. So this is going to stay with me for the rest of my life. And I know for my organization as well, because now we understand that you can't sit back here and hope and pray that the field is going to get it done, or worse, complain that they're not getting it done. What's wrong with them? Until you've kind of looked at inside and go, let's look at what's wrong with us first before we start dealing with what's wrong with them. This us versus them, which is, it's true in every direct selling company. It's very easy for executives to fall in that place where, well, if the field just did this, if they're not doing it, it's because something is missing. Go figure it out.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a trust, maybe it's something else, but don't assume that if they just get it right, it's just going to be okay. No, it definitely has to start inside. And so those were probably two lessons of many other lessons, which I can't think about right now. But
yeah, no, both really, really powerful. I love the idea that it's an inside job, that success in your future is really an inside job, is really, I think, important in helping the company come together, know that they can't wait, that they've got to take action themselves and dig in and figure it out. I think that's really important.
Wayne,
so,
I think another
idea please.
Throw out there is stay vulnerable.
Yeah.
Stay vulnerable. None of us have figured it out. I've been in this thing 41 years, and I'm still learning every day. I am still spending my Saturdays and Sundays listening to field leaders, because as an executive, I need to be where they're at, right? You got to stay in the trenches, stay vulnerable. And being vulnerable also means there are other people outside your organizations who can bring some insights you'll never get by yourself. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to use those resources that are out there. And I say this, and when you're one of those resources. I think this podcast is one of those resources that people need to tap into to make sure that we're staying as sharp as we can. Yeah, iron sharpens iron, and the people out there who have seen more, who have a perspective for the differences that can come and tell you. But it has to also be the people who have the courage to tell you, what's wrong, and not sugarcoat it, not tell you what you want to hear. There's enough people in the inside who will tell you that. You need people from the outside who also have that kind of they have the perspective, but also they have the resolve to say, hey, this is what's not right. And then you being able to accept it, not try to defend it, and then go do something about it.
Yeah. I think that vulnerability is really important. And it's something that I really admire about you and watch throughout, at least, the part of this process that I was involved in, and then the other, part kind of watching from the sidelines. But I've learned where you talked about the importance of gaining these perspectives and having empathy for all these different groups. And maybe that gets back a little bit to, some of your leadership lessons in the field as a field leader before you came inside. But you as a leader never pretended you had all the answers, but you went out and got all the perspective that you needed from customers. You looked at competition, even other replacement products and kind of tangential companies, to then land on the right decision. I think that was a huge learning experience for me. And it actually reminded me of a story in Jack Welch's book, Winning, where he talked about when he took over the turbine engine business. Someone asked him, well, what do you know about turbine engines? And he said, my job's not to have all the answers. My job's to have the questions. and I think that's something that you really embodied throughout the process, is you really helped the organization internally and externally to think through, to have the right questions, to understand implications of each of those decisions that you make, and really seeing kind of the end goal and helping bring all of those various perspectives together kind of along for the journey. Final question here, Al, where do you see direct selling in 5 years? You're an incredible student of the channel, incredible student of market and category dynamics. There's lots of change happening right now, especially not only as a public CEO, but as a former field leader. Where do you see direct selling in 5 years?
I think that's multi-million. Right?
Yeah, I'm saying it selfishly so I can plan ahead.
Well, I will start by saying that I am probably as bullish about the channel as I was 41 years ago, when I was just starry-eyed, excited about the business, the industry. So because so many things have happened that I believe really align with what we've been for so many years, but it's made us from being the exception to me being the norm and the mainstream. We're talking about, whether it's in-home shopping, right? Whether it's wellness, in that case, which people are becoming really much more, concerned about, whether it's a gig economy and how many millions of people out there trying to get, an additional stream of income. And the fact that now we're talking about multiple gigs, I think those things play well for us. I'm obviously very, aware of some of the negative winds as well, from a regulatory, from a reputation. But I feel that, at the end of the day, the concept of freedom, flexibility, rewards, as Mr. John Fleming would say it, I think those things are ringing truer today than they've ever rang before. I remember 20 some years ago, fate popcorn, the cocooning effect. And that was happening then, but boy, is it really happening now, right? So I do believe that it's going to, there's going to be a transformation. We need to transform. We need to transform in terms of the expectations we set for people. I've certainly been a part of those people who set the wrong expectations for people in this industry. I think that needs to change. We need to make that more real. We need to make it more transparent. I believe that we need to focus on value at the end of the day. This industry only survives if we're providing real value to customers. That's, and then there's no residual income unless you have residual customers. So you want customers that come in and stay with you for a long time, because you're providing them a level of service that they won't get from somewhere else, or a level of value they won't get somewhere else. So 5 years from now, I think there's going to be a whole lot more people, when you think in terms of affiliates and influencers, and there's new models being built right now. I believe that's going to go into a much wider pool of people than we've ever been able to attract. And the technology plays in our favor as well, because it's given us the ability to connect with people in ways we couldn't before. I was just on a call at 8:00 this morning with 450 people from 7 different countries, and they were not even in my business, in other business, but being able to provide that kind of inspiration, motivation, and education in such a broad level and a global basis, for me, that speaks to my excitement. That feeds my excitement for where this channel is going to be 5 years from now. But it's still there's going to be some some real, fundamental transformation, bedrock type of things we're going to have to do to make it better. But I think we're all smart people. I think, being on the board of the DSA, I'm listening to a lot of very smart people who are figuring this stuff out, and we're going to adapt. And just like franchising was, 50 years ago, and it was not something people wanted to be involved with, and now it's mainstream. I believe direct selling is going to be more mainstream once we set it up in such a way that we can get rid of some of these other things that has really been that has contributed to that negative perception that exists in the world. But we'll figure it out. I really feel, very confident that a lot of smart people are involved, and this is a good model, and we'll figure it out, and we'll become mainstream. And I think we're going to bring freedom, flexibility, and rewards to lots of people around the world. I don't know if I answered that question again. But
you did. Yeah. You made me really excited for that
my
future.
own excitement about what this model will be in the future.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. And I look forward to that future, and look forward to working with you to see that future come to reality. And Al, I just want to thank you for all the time that you've spent sharing these incredible insights, for being so candid, for being so vulnerable. I've learned so much from you, not just throughout this process, but over the years as you and I have interacted. Really appreciate your friendship. And thank you for all you do for direct selling behind the scenes. There's a lot you do. It's a big time commitment. There's a lot that you do for the channel as a whole that not everybody gets to see. And thank you for being a great champion for direct selling.
Well, Wayne, I feel the same. Thank you for elevating this industry. And I'm a big fan, not only of you, but also of your podcast and what you're doing with DSN. So all of you guys doing an amazing job to elevate this industry where it deserves to be. So thank you.
Thanks, Al. Thanks for being here.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Since 2004, DSN has proudly served the direct selling industry and the executives that lead it. Our mission is to serve, educate, and edify the channel as your daily go-to resource for breaking global news, emerging trends, and powerful stories so you can stay informed, engaged, and always one step ahead as it relates to the business of direct selling. We invite you to subscribe to the podcast so that you are the first to know when new episodes are available. And don't forget to register for the upcoming Tech Summit on Tuesday, February 22nd. This live broadcast event is free to all active corporate direct selling executives. Register at directsellingnewscom/Tech Summit. We also invite you to join the new DSN VIP community. It's a new way for direct selling executives to keep up with what's happening in the channel in real time through the convenience of text. Simply text the word JOIN to 214-239-3043 and follow the prompts to add DSN as a contact in your phone. There's no separate app to download. And you tell us what type of news and stories you want to receive, and then DSN will create a custom news feed just for you. Never miss out on what's happening in the channel again. Text us at 214-239-3043 and join the DSN VIP community. Thank you for listening and for always supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.